this is Blake Levon here, here in the United States, with the CBDstore.in team here in the United States. And today we have with us Tim Gordon. And Tim is just one of the top global industry leaders in the world of CBD and medicinal cannabis. Tim has been in the space for nearly 30 years now, and has worked on just about every aspect of this industry, I think, that you can imagine, from agriculture and the botany side and growing, to the world of taking hemp plants and processing them into nutritional supplements in many forms. Tim has been involved in legislation. Tim, are you still the president of the Colorado Hemp Association as well?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I mean, and he speaks globally.
The president of the Colorado Hemp Association. This is major. This is a big step
deal.
up for CBDstore.in. Yes.
Very big deal, man. And Tim, he's spoken all over the world. He's spoken at countless conferences. I mean, I don't know how many conferences you've been a speaker at and on panels. So you almost couldn't ask for a better authority. And man, we just are so grateful to have you here speaking to the audience in India, because you just have so much, wisdom in the industry and so much, education and value that you can bring. So man, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much. And Vanish, thank you so much. Wonderful opportunity. And it, like you said, like it is hard to me. It's part of my life. It's part of my life's mission, is to change the world with this plant. And I think we're slowly getting there. And it's been an honor to do this my whole life. I've watched this plant change my life. I've watched it change families' lives, and I've grown just to be so infatuated and honored to be associated with it, that it's humbling. It's humbling to be a person who's living their life's mission and truly believing that they are doing the right thing in the world. And it's wonderful. It's humbling to me. It's hearted. And this plant is special in my heart and soul. And what it can do for the many people of the world is really special to me as well. So I'm excited to be able to sit here and talk with you guys here from Boulder, Colorado, and share my some stories and some science about the plant, and how come it's really important to you guys, and it's really important to all of us in general. So thank you for having me.
So good.
And the pleasure is all ours, Smith. And I'd like to know that if it wasn't for Tim Gordon and his efforts for destigmatization of cannabis, as you heard over the years, there's a very good chance CBD store would not be here today. The roadmap for all of this was laid by people who made cannabis an industry where people from all religions, all races around the world could benefit within the multiple sectors, whether it's a farming guy, whether it's the guy who's shipping, whether it's the guy who's running the coffee shops. And this has provided a respectable and dignified life to a lot of people who, if you just look back, say 70, 80 years ago, those people wouldn't have had that chance. So yeah, we are really grateful for your efforts, mate. We really are.
Thank you so much. It's, like I said, it's important to me, and it's something that I love to do. And you bring up something that's really, I think, is important in our conversation today, is that cannabis has no boundaries. It has no boundaries inside of me. It has no boundaries inside of you, and it has no boundaries to color, ethnicity, religion, or race. It heals everyone, and its purpose, the purpose of this plant, is to enhance our bodies and enhance our ecosystem that we live in. And that includes all of us. It's a symbiotic relationship from the soil to us internally to the world. And this plant, unlike any other plant, there's no other plant compared to cannabis. There's no other plant that has the relationship from plant to human, from phyto to mammalia, right? That synchronicity between this plant and us is why it's so important, and why you guys who are probably listening, and all of us who are still using cannabis, are seeing the many good changes in the life, all the way from farming to our own health and well-being. So the fact that you brought up the different, religions, and it's just wonderful to hear, because I love talking about cannabis in this way, because it touches all of us, and it's all of us centric to all of us. So it's really important.
Tim, I'm curious, when I look at what's happening in India, with CBD products, with hemp products, I feel like it's a bit of sort of an awakening, and an expansion that maybe is similar to what happened in the United States 5 years ago. Vinesh, would you say that's kind of similar as well?
Yes,
There's a
yes.
similar.
And if you want to, go even deeper into that aspect,
Yeah.
you can say in India, the generation which grew up in the internet era, when they had access to the internet, say, by the time they were at the age of 15 or so, is a completely different generation than the 15 generations behind. The gap between these two generations is massive. So, if 15 years ago, very few people who would be using the plant,
Yeah.
and nowadays, literally everybody does. Literally everybody does, right? Uh, from Now, there is very few people who don't actually, and all this is a result of the destigmatization, which has actually been driven very interestingly by US, right?
Oh,
Whether it
wow.
is the depictions, all the campaigns and the legalization efforts happening in US, and the conversations happening around the benefits of cannabis, it all plays a huge part, because the world is now a connected place. Now it's no longer that when somebody says something in Colorado, right? Now we have Tim Gordon with us. The efforts when he says something in Colorado, spreads awareness about hemp. Its effects, they renovate wherever there is internet, and it changes the consciousness of wherever it reaches, and that has been happening for such a while that we are at this phase where everybody who's exposed, who has a phone with an internet, is starting to be pro you looking at cannabis as a healing substance. Yeah.
Yes.
Vinesh, what percentage of your people coming to your website have never tried CBD products before?
I'm sure 95.
95.
95.
So Tim, I'm curious, and this is where I kind of go back to that other topic of sort of the sense of, of the growth of CBD and hemp products in India being similar to the United States, a few years ago maybe, where indeed I remember, and even and Tim and I used to work together. That's how we met. I mean, there were so many people we spoke with as well who had never tried CBD before, who was completely new, and there was a sense of almost a mix of fear and excitement. Like, should I try this? Grandmothers trying it for the first time or whatever. So Tim, I'm curious, like, what would you say to those 95% of people out there in India who are now hearing about CBD, who are curious, maybe who are a little scared? I don't know, based on all of your experience in all these years, what would you say to that audience of people who are curious in India?
Yeah. Well, I would say your curiosity is justified, and you should not be afraid of this plant. And I encourage everyone to try cannabidiol, to try CBD products, to start off on a low amount, and they can work up if they need more. But folks who try CBD, very few of them ever say, this is not working for me. Or perhaps they got something that just wasn't right for them. But that's the unique thing about cannabidiol in general around CBD, is our body needs it. Our body produces it naturally. And these days and times with multiple stresses and the environment in general, our body needs it probably a little bit more. So what I would say to those many folks who are coming over to CBD Store India and looking at CBD products and wanting to know if it's safe, know if it's going to help me, well, it is, number one, they're safe. This is a plant that's been around longer than all of us have on this earth. And it's been used in this form since the beginning of time. It's safe, and The unique thing about this plant, like I said, we have an endocannabinoid system. We have a system that is dependent on this plant. So that's what I would tell folks. I would say you should not be afraid. Don't let stigmas scare you. CBD is a naturally derived compound from a plant that will only enhance your body's wellness.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think too about like the broader industry? Because Tim is also one of the founders of International Hemp Solutions, and already he's working around the world, with this plant and with the industry. What are your thoughts on India and the broader industry of hemp as well, in terms of the agriculture there, in terms of products that maybe aren't CBD? What's your awareness and just thoughts on the broader aspects and implications of a hemp industry broadly inside India?
Well, I think this is where herein the opportunity lies to heal the earth. In large agricultural settings, in large agricultural countries or communities, much like in India, you have a plant that helps bioremediate, helps change the soil's electricity to be able to be better production. You have a plant that can feed, heal, and clothe. That's really rare in the whole scheme of opportunities from a plant-based product. So I think the opportunities are abounding in international markets. For instance, the hemp industry consumption of grain has grown by 100% annually since 2014, meaning the acreage that's being grown increases, the consumption increases around that. And that's also happening across the country in other forms of cannabis agriculture, for growing cannabis for fiber products. Here in the United States, there's some new facilities being built. Now, I know across the country, there's other facilities that are already operating and using hemp in a variety of different textiles, etc. And those opportunities are going to be wonderful to obtain for the folks in India there. If the agricultural side of things is where I believe cannabis can have the most impact on the global economy, bringing new markets, new opportunities, and better sustainability in the farming practices with a better plant that heals the earth.
With everything happening with climate change, that's a huge deal too.
Yes.
So Tim, I would like to add something. So you have been in the cannabis industry for 35 years. You are the president of the California Hemp Association. I'm sure you remember a time before cannabis was legal and industrial, and after it has become legal and industrial, what changes have you seen in Colorado, for example, in terms of improvement in the economies and all? Can you share with us the transformations that you have seen after hemp became legitimized? Yes.
Yeah. Well, you bring up another great point. Cannabis, since its legalization here in Colorado, both marijuana and hemp have only increased economies' bottom line, meaning the taxes, the amount of revenue that's been made from hemp farming and marijuana farming that goes back into the communities have been incredible. We've built new schools here in Colorado. We've built big community centers because of this plant and being able to regulate it and appropriately tax it. So it's been amazing since the first year of farming hemp was 2012 here. And from then on, we've seen only upticks in the economy here, in the cannabis economy. As to where, like I said, we just recently, in a suburb of Denver, Colorado, our capital here in Colorado, they were able to build a community center with a pool, with everything, all on cannabis tax money. And wow, what an opportunity there. Another thing that's happening here, there's a non-profit initiative that's going into effect coming years with our tax money. So tax money that's being driven here in the state of Colorado, the state can put it into nonprofits that better the economy here as well. So really, really cool stuff. And we've only seen beneficial opportunities in many economies here across Colorado. We haven't seen anybody take a hit, Vinesh. No one has lost here. The cannabis economy has only been proven to be good.
I'm curious, and what can I'm sure these numbers are out there. Like as an example, last year, 2019, how much tax revenue did the state of Colorado take in from cannabis related sales? Do you know a general number?
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
It
it's
was around
big, right?
yeah, yeah. It was around $97 million.
Just in one
Wow.
state in 1 year.
And may I ask, like,
Wow.
how many people do you believe would be working in the hemp industry in Colorado? Would you be able to give an approximate number?
Geez, well, so there are in the marijuana industry, there are 277 licensed operating marijuana companies. In the hemp industry, there's about 1,300 that are in Colorado. So, if they employ 3 to 5 people apiece, you're right around that 80,000 to 100,000 people in the cannabis workforce in our state.
Just in one state,
Wow.
and this is
Just in
happening
one
in
state.
this is one state. This is happening in
Yeah,
Washington,
exactly.
California. I mean, this is happening all over the United States. That's just one
And,
state.
Exactly,
and it's
right?
actually,
And
Blake, it's happening all over the world. You guys are doing it over right there in India. This is the cannabis economy. This is like I always talk about this as the baton that keeps giving. When I started growing this plant when I was just a kid and having to run for my life to now be talking to you about it and the many opportunities, and you guys are going to go talk about it. I mean, the cannabis economy is just building and building, and it's a global economy at this point.
yes,
I'm
and that's just some really awesome things to hear. So this is something very important to note down, that cannabis in one state can employ over 100,000 people and can generate over $96 million in taxes. And I think when you look at economies which are not doing so well in the world, or economies which are developing, right, like India's, where we still have some ways to go economically, we still have to improve the opportunities we provide at the rural level to the people. I think this is definitely those stats. They mean the world, They mean a world of opportunity. Definitely, yeah. Tell me, Tim,
Yes.
how do you see India entering into the global cannabis economy and contributing there and enriching from it? From your experience in how America entered it, I have seen in Amsterdam, for example, Cali Haze and cannabis products imported from America. Another great example I can quote is Snoop Dogg vaporizers and things
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
hmm.
So
So
I think,
can you share your insight?
yeah, yeah. This is what's happening in the global cannabis economy. Is we are now going from, state where only states produce products to now where multiple states in a country, for instance, the U.S. produce products, and now you're seeing them on a global scale. As to where regulations are being put in place for import and export of cannabis-derived products all over the world. And I think that specifically is where the opportunity could lie with you guys over in India, being able to create new and unique products. There's always been new and unique cannabis varieties coming from your neck of the woods over there. So what I would say is the big opportunity is for is for regulatory process around importing and exporting cannabis goods, either into America, into the South Americas, into Europe, into Asian countries. I think would be a wonderful opportunity on a global scale. And I think the opportunity is incredibly attainable. Like I said, I've worked with attorneys here in the United States where we've written some import and export laws between the country of Colombia and the United States, or from Colombia, South America into Canada, etc. So I think the opportunity would be great and would be absolutely big.
Interesting. I'm curious, you guys, Vinesh, unless you have a follow-up on that, I'm curious to do a slight pivot from the macro view of the industry to a very personal view. And I'm thinking specifically again to the audience of individual people now who is coming to cbdstore.in, getting education, doing research, looking at products, etc. specifically, I know that audience, on a personal level, every one of those individuals who's coming to cbdstore.in on a personal level has some issue that's brought them there. Maybe it's insomnia. Maybe it's, pain and arthritis. Maybe it's a child with cognitive challenges. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's depression, and they're hearing about, hey, CBD could possibly, help you with these things. I'm curious if you might be able to share, you and your work, Tim, and the products you've created and the different people that you are connected with. I mean, you've touched arguably tens of thousands of people with the work you've done. I'm curious if you might be able to share with us just a couple of stories, a couple of, bits of, testimonials, if you will, but stories of individual people, who maybe had some health challenge that they were working with, and how, these CBD products changed their life. Are there a handful of those you could just kind of share with us that come to mind immediately?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll share it in the context of a story because multiple folks have come to me in this way. So when folks are sick or they're hurting, right, the first thing they do is go to see a doctor. And a lot of the times the doctors can help, and they might have to prescribe something or something like that, but it's the first line of defense, call it, right? So I'm sick and I'm going to see a doctor, and the doctor's going to try to help me, and maybe this doctor can't. Maybe I'm sick a little bit more than they know. Maybe I have a neurological problem, like you said, like maybe I have seizures or something like that. And they go to the doctor and they look for help. They go to a neurologist for specialists. They go to all these different things, right? And someone says, hey, have you tried cannabis? And that's when they come to me, after seeing doctors, after seeing healers, seeing priests. I'm the last one they come to and say, Tim, can you help? And that responsibility right there, Blake, is what kills me each time. Each time it goes right into my heart. It is very special for me. So when I get that opportunity to be the last shield of defense to change someone's life, I take it very seriously. And I've watched it many times. I've been able to hold babies from moms and watch a mom cry and weep in joy because of a change of a simple plant that we've introduced. I've watched friends and family just, sorry about this. So I've watched a lot of people suffer, and you got me, Blake. I'm sorry.
I hear you, man. Yeah.
But yes, I've helped people in their worst moments, and I've watched them get to their best, Blake. That's what's important. And I've helped them along the way. And like I said, if my life ends right now, I've done it. I've done it. And so that's, yeah, sorry. A little bit too emotional.
It's beautiful. I mean,
I'm grateful you have opened up as much as you have. We really are very grateful for that, bro.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
super grateful. And Tim, I'm one of the people in some small part of your story, because I shared with Vinesh yesterday my whole journey with ankylosing spondylitis.
Yeah.
Man, that autoimmune disease, 25 years now I've had it. And the doctors told me I wouldn't walk again. They told me I may never run again. The pain used to be so bad that there would be flashes of red that would cover my vision, because the pain was so extreme. It would make my vision go red. And I used to have to crawl up the stairs with my fingertips and just literally on my belly to get into bed at night. Look at me. No one has any idea. I run, I dance, I do yoga, I work out. No one has any idea that there was this quasi death sentence that was given to me 25 years ago, you know,
Wow.
and I had a lot of pain, but it's when, you know, it was through our friend Brad and then meeting you that I, you know, really started to learn about CBD, and I started taking it, and I'm a poster child. I'm one of those people that, like, I can't believe it. You know, I just can't
Yeah.
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And that's so amazing. I love that response, and it's just it's how it's supposed to happen, Blake. It's how this plant's supposed to change our lives for the better.
Yes, and how many people right now would be in jail if not for cannabis? I'm sure it has made a lot of people calm in their worst moments, who have problems with anger, with
Yes.
who react badly to things and all. So that's when you say we are the last defense of so many people. That's so true. That end of the day, this plant doesn't judge. You could be not having things working for you professionally, personally, could be in the worst possible situation. This plant can at least, till the tolerance takes over, at least give you a chance again, by providing you with relief, so you can focus again and are not chained by the events which could otherwise break a person. So that definitely it touches a deep chord, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And when you continually see the more and more folks that are visiting your website, I think that's just testament to what you're saying right there. There's a global shift. There's a global want to feel better. And here's something naturally
Yes.
that your body already produces, that your body wants. And I applaud you for giving everyone the opportunity to be able to heal themselves with this plant. It's wonderful to be able to participate today.
And on that note, I would like to say that where do you see uh, the possibility, of having cannabis tourism in India? You have noticed in Colorado, cannabis tourism after cannabis has been legalized. I see on Google, I see ads all the time. Come to Colorado, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so.
They're actually
Uh,
quite fun.
Yes, yes, and I'm sure after COVID, I'm going to be there one day for sure, mate. And so
Yeah.
tell me, how have the effects of tourism been once cannabis was legalized in Colorado?
Yes. Well, this is great because you bring up something that which is unique to cannabis, and that's when cannabis was legalized, whether it was for medical or recreational purposes, we had people flocking to the state to take advantage of that. We had people coming from other countries to the state of Colorado because it was legal, it was being sold in a safe manner, and people had access to it that didn't have access at all because either of stigmas or laws. So it's drawn an array of people. And through the process of regulation and over the years, the cannabis tourism industry has grown immensely. So as you said, there's companies, you can come and fly into Denver, you can get picked up and go on dispensary tours and grow tours and see some of the biggest marijuana grows and see some of the best growing products in the world. And it is a big industry here in Colorado. Not just here in Denver, even on some of the small towns in Colorado have a decent cannabis tourism environment and economy, and it's because we've been opened our doors, we've been friendly with it, and it's like I said, the cannabis economy in Colorado is central to our workings going forward. Huge opportunity as well internationally. I would love the opportunity to come to India and experience cannabis. It's one of my goals sometime. I'll definitely be there. But having the opportunity for a really cool tour and an experience, I think would be great.
Vinesh was telling me earlier this morning, he really enlightened me to a bit of the history of cannabis that I didn't even know in India. Vinesh, would you be willing to share that again? I think it's really fascinating.
It could take years. So, so let's go to the full history of cannabis, right? So cannabis has been used in India for over 5,000 years now. There was a drink called Soma. It was mentioned in about 1200 BC in a text called Rig Veda. In fact, the first hymn is like a poem. That's how they start the Vedas. is a tribute to Soma. It says, drinking Soma, we have become immortal. And Soma was an edible preparation of cannabis, which may have included also some other plants to, add in more of the punch, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so India's
Wow.
history has been so deep. Even the generation before, when I was a kid, the adults, they would
Yeah.
during the festival of Holi drink bhang. So bhang is basically cannabis and milk and some sweeteners. So it's
Wow.
edible cannabis. And even now, if you go to the Himalayas, you see there is a entire religious sect of people. They're called Babajis. You must have seen they have the dreadlocks and they wear
Yes.
the religious robes. So
Yeah.
everywhere they smoke chillums, which are the Indian smoking pipes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody stops them because it's a religious thing. And even charas, which is hashish, is considered a gift of Shiva, the god Shiva.
Yeah.
So the god Shiva has always been also associated with cannabis. I think India is the only country in the world which has a god, which is the Soma Devta, specifically for psychotropic substances. We have a psychotropic god.
Wow. Wow.
I
This
didn't
is
know
So
true.
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
Yes. So roots they run really deep here, right? And uh, a part of my effort is to bring the opportunity to the entire country to
Yeah.
be involved in the cannabis business. I want to tell people, hey, why don't you start up a yoga center where people from around the world, they can come here, they can try meditation along with Indian cooking, along with CBD, along with the cannabis medication,
Yeah.
right? And make this bring the whole thing back home, like
Yeah.
so. And please bring that part back into the forefront, which has always been a part of our culture. And what do you feel? Do you feel Americans would be interested in coming to India if we set up spiritual cannabis stores here?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I would be the first one, as long as Blake came with me. But I would
Deal.
say absolutely. You would have a lot of interest from
Uh-huh.
North America in the cannabis culture. Absolutely. It would be really
Totally.
fun to experience.
I was telling Vinesh yesterday, and I'm curious to hear what you think too, Tim. Like, I think I can say with authority that like a typical American perspective of India is this sense of ancient culture, ancient wisdom, this sense of deep
Yeah.
spiritual connection, of yoga and indeed, Bhagavad Gita, gods and
Yeah.
goddesses, and this wisdom, this deep kind of ancient spiritual wisdom that is literally just percolating there. And
Yep.
already there is this fascination and this reverence. I'll say this downright reverence for India because of this deep sense of spiritual awakening or even spiritual authority that's there and is rooted in tens of thousands of years. So you tie that to a cannabis kind of healing, wellness, medicinal
Oh yeah.
experience as well, and personal growth and personal self-discovery journey. You tie all of that together. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I think your description of how, India is traditionally seen in this country is spot on. And wow, that would be the ultimate experience is to come for, call it a healing journey.
Yeah.
It would be magical.
Tim and I are there, man. Front row
Yep.
seat.
You got it.
Awesome, bro. And one more thing I noticed, right? When we talk about cannabis and healing, we generally talk about how cannabis helps in certain ailments. Uh, how about we also look into how cannabis helps a person who may not need any strong healing? He's just say a normal guy who wants to hit the gym daily. Maybe he goes to a MMA class. He needs to be less sore. And just Tim, can you give me an idea of how a healthy person with no issues can integrate cannabis into his life without being a stoner or without being,
Yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we have to see cannabis as get off of the effects of how the stoner kind of syndrome works and really get onto the effects of wellness. So what I like to frame up for folks who may be like hardcore athletes or something like that, and I go into my spiel, I tell them how much they need it, but I also give them the understanding that this is really an essential vitamin. And if you can take small amounts daily, like you would take a vitamin C pill or something like that, and if you can take it small amounts daily, number one, you'll never get high. You will see the intrinsic benefits of your body's endocannabinoid system working in an optimal form, and you won't have to worry about the smoking effect or the stigma perhaps of smoking. And if folks can just consume it in low doses and see it as an essential vitamin, much like we do with anything else, a lot in this country specifically as a supplement, I think the stigma goes away, and it's seen more as a benefit to all.
Cool. Yeah. There's a lot of athletes in the United States. A lot of athletes who are using CBD now. Many. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just everyday people too. I mean, it literally is becoming the sort of, just like Tim said, a standard nutritional supplement just sitting on your shelf next to your vitamin C or your fish oil, whatever. It's for so many people. It's just like, oh yeah, take my tincture drops today. Pop my gel cap today. It's becoming so just a household product now. Even for children, some children are taking it too. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming mainstream, and that's exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it's a new social conscience. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Right. One more thing. So recently there was this huge story in India which blew up, right? Where an actor was perhaps consuming CBD, and unfortunately the actor passed away later. And so what happened was that the news channels, when they reported his lifestyle and things like that, they mentioned a lot of drugs like LSD, MDMA, CBD, and like they just grouped it, heroin. They just grouped it over there. I think there's so how can you help shed some more light on how CBD is not a drug, how CBD is or even cannabis as a whole should not be grouped along with these other substances which clearly have serious side effects, potentially lethal side effects, except for LSD, but at least the amphetamines,
Yeah.
A scientific overview, if you can help me give.
Yeah, you hit it on the head there with side effects. That's the big one. That's if you look into the science community around cannabis, the one thing you're going to have a hard time finding are side effects. Now, if you take whatever it may be, MDMA, LSD, the potential for side effects is huge. So you can't lump cannabis into a street drug nomenclature. It doesn't fit there. There are no side effects. It's not processed like traditional drugs are. It's a safe and recreational plant in comparison to a synthetically produced a drug like heroin or LSD, as to where you can take it, you can have long-lasting side effects that can be detrimental. They could even cause death. Now, you can take CBD, you'll have no side effects, and I can guarantee you it'll never kill you. You can't overdose on it. So that's again, one of the many benefits of it, but we have to get away from calling cannabis and cannabidiol and associating it with drugs. We have to associate it with natural wellness, and much like I talked about, almost like a vitamin. The honor of this plant, it never should be associated with things like MDMA or anything like that. Anything that can kill or hurt, this plant doesn't do that.